we have yet another round of the weekly Roundup for you. Twitter and YouTube comments that I will respond to. I got a couple of them just today, actually, that were quite interesting. So I'm going to be starting with Jeremy Effinger. He's appeared on the weekly Roundup before. He says, if you were stuck on a deserted island with one other member from the TYT staff, who would you want it to be and why? This is not going to surprise anyone. I guess I would have to choose Anna Kasparian. If for no other reason, then she, at some point, she gets in her goofy moods, I suppose. But when shit needs to be done, she will get shit done. We need to build a hut, a raft, something like that. Anna Kasparian does not fuck around. She doesn't seem like one to break under the pressure either, which I think would be important. When you're trying to, I guess, gather water, hunt down crabs and things like that, I'm basically going off of my experience with Castaway, to survive, you don't also want to have to play therapist every day to somebody who's breaking under the pressure of island life. Christian Marasico says, how scientific is political science and how scientific could it be? There, I think he understands that I was a political science graduate student. Many people believe that political science is not much of a science at all, and they would levy that accusation at almost all of the social sciences, but I think that that's unfair. I think that if the social sciences, and particularly political science, seem unscientific, it's only because we're dealing with an incredibly difficult to study variable, and that is human behavior. Now, when we're trying to analyze the behavior of politicians, of Supreme Court justices, the human brain is an incredibly complicated thing to study, especially when, in politics, they're actively trying to deceive you most of the time. And also, American politics has so many different influences from, popular opinion, the influence of some issues being salient in the population and others not, this changing over time, donations from politicians, from interest groups, and all of these things. It's incredibly hard to break down specifically what causes a particular phenomenon, a particular law to pass, for instance, a particular politician to be elected. So I do think that political science is a science. It is incredibly scientific, but it is dealing with a very difficult issue. It's like trying to study pool when the pool table has thousands of balls all ricocheting off of each other at the same time. It's incredibly difficult. It does not make it unscientific. Imen Udu says, how come you've decided to have alternating co-hosts instead of a permanent one, and will they be all from the existing TYTU crew? Now they're talking about the other channel that I host, TYT University. I will answer that here because I haven't gotten around to answering it on TYTU. Now this is not a decision that has been made. This is simply what's happened the last couple of weeks, and it will happen for at least the next couple of weeks in the future. As you may know, Lisa Ferguson has moved away. Now she will still be involved in the channel, although remotely. And it is not an easy thing to find a permanent co-host. And honestly, at this point, with her just recently having left, it's not something I'm excited to do, I guess. It's a nice opportunity to have different co-hosts each week, and I think that that does bring something to the show. We had Anna Kasparian, Hermela Argawi, Sam Shocker is going to be hosting next week, and I think that it's kind of cool to have different opinions being brought to bear on the stories with every passing week. They will not all be drawn from existing TYTU crew. I do have a couple of people who haven't currently or in the past shown up on the channel who will be doing some guest hosting in the near future, and I'm personally excited about it. I hope that the audience is also excited about it. Final comment, this is coming from a YouTube comment on the past weekly Roundup episode. This is from Purple Scout Cookies. They say, what do you think about the MOBA community, League, Dota, Heroes of Newerth community in comparison to MMOs like WoW and EVE? I wonder what technology is involved in MOBAs that make it one of the rudest communities out there. And so for some reason I get a lot of comments about video games, and it's something that I'm interested in, so I'll answer that here. I think that the communities from different genres of games can be very different, and it's not too hard to figure out why. Now let's take a game like League of Legends or Dota and compare it to something like Call of Duty. Now Call of Duty does not have a particularly, I guess, inviting or friendly community, but while you'll get insulted there, they don't really attack you for your skill all that much, or at least on your teams that's not very common, and it's incredibly common in League, Dota, Heroes of Newerth, MOBA games of this sort. And the reason for that, I guess, is it's as simple as the length of individual games. Now, a deathmatch or team deathmatch game in Call of Duty could be 8 minutes long or something like that. It's a very quick turnaround on the game. So if you lose, there's another game coming in just 10 minutes. Whereas in League or in Dota, these games can be 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes or longer. And you can't surrender all that easily, especially in Dota. I don't even think they have any capacity for surrendering. And so if you find yourself on a team with a person that you think is not doing well and you're a troll or an asshole, you're going to let them know it. And the reason for that is this is what you're stuck with for the next 30 to 40 minutes. I think that it's really as simple as that. I don't know that demographically there's any major difference between these different genres. It's possible that gamers in general are younger now with the rise of consoles and networked internet and things like that. But I think it's the investment of the individual games. I think that when the games are long, and especially when, in the case of these MOBAs, you're being ranked in a lot of cases, you have your ELO visible, I think that then it's very easy for people to get worked up about it. The comparison I like to make generally is to something like pickup volleyball or basketball. Generally, people don't care all that much if they lose. Now, you might have to sit out a game, and that's certainly a consequence, but there's no ongoing tally of your wins and losses. If you were to ask Ricky Strom of TYT Sports what his win-to-loss ratio in pickup basketball is, he'd have no clue. But on the other hand, if there was some, I guess, government drone watching and keeping a record of his wins and losses, he might care more about those losses. And so that's another influence over MOBAs. Now, those are the two things I think that have a big impact on it. If you have something else that you think is influencing this, feel free to let me know. Now, I would say that if you agree with me that the community sucks, the easy solution is just to find friends to play with. Now, when I play, I'm often on Skype with 3, 4, 5 other people for a full group. And I think that that's an easy solution. If the community is toxic, don't play with the community. Anyway, if you have questions you'd like to see on the next edition of the Weekly Roundup, feel free to leave them in the comments section. You can tweet me at John Iadarola, of course. I love hearing your thoughts and questions.